Hello, good evening folks. Hope you can hear me tonight right at the start after last week where it was complete silence when everyone switched on. So, happy Easter everyone. Hope you've had a good day at home and perhaps enjoyed being out in the garden. Right, welcome to today's show. And another packed show it is, hopefully not quite as long as last week, but do let me know who's watching in the live chat. I can already see a few names in there. Michael, Steve, Ron, hello, welcome to In Studio Live this week, and looking forward to this one. It's going to be a little bit different on there. Loud and clear, good. We've got the microphone working. I did have a backup plan if all else failed. This one isn't connected. So, right, let's get going. And welcome to the show. So, tonight our theme is about working for free, the pros and cons of doing that. We've got our usual Lightroom challenge and giveaways and all that sort of thing. So, if anyone is new to watching these shows, please take a moment to go and hit that subscribe button and the little bell that gives you an indication of when new things are up on the channel. That really does help me, folks, if you can do that. And if you're already subscribed, then is there anyone you know who might find this interesting? Are you a member of a camera club? Do let them know about the show, because I really want to try and broaden the audience. To be perfectly honest with you, I need to get a large audience for this for various reasons. Not least of all, it will allow me to get some income from monetizing the YouTube channel. It will raise my profile and allow me to promote my services to other locations. And to be perfectly honest, if I can't do either of those, I ain't got no money coming in, so it's goodbye business and goodbye the show. So it's in all our interests to promote it if you can, please. Let people know about what's going on. Just so that you know how they work, as a reminder for those who know. Oh, hello Rick, who's just joined me in the chat. For those who don't know how these work, they live up on my YouTube channel for a week or so in their full length. Then after that, I edit them down to be just the start of the show, the first few sections of it, and the full versions remain available exclusively to my Academy members. But I just keep highlights up on YouTube. Do ask questions in the live chat. Yay, Tim, well done. He's finally got through on the chat. The last 2 weeks I've had messages off Tim saying that he's had some trouble getting in on the chat. So welcome to the chat, Tim. It's great to see you on there. Tim and everyone, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. I've got a Q&A coming up towards the end, and I'll deal with questions at that point. If you're watching this on the replay, then put your questions in the comments. I do read all the comments that are posted, and I'll try to reply to as many as I can. But if you've got questions there, I'll hold them over till the next time and deal with them in the next live stream. So if you can do that, that will be a real help as well. Gives me something to talk about. So what have we got on the show this week? We've got the usual mini news section. Not a great deal of things to talk about in the news this week. There's a couple. I've got my regular 3-minute Lightroom edit challenge. My edits and Rick's edits, of course, on there. I've got an image which was sent to me by email this week. Somebody asking me for feedback, so I'm going to go through that. Plenty. Nice to see a few other names turning up in the chat now. Stuart, Peter, Tim and Terry. welcome all. I'll be doing my 3-minute challenge, will be doing his, and then I'm going to be talking about working for free. So I'd be really interested to get your opinions on this before I get to that section. It's not going to change my views, but I'd be really interested to know what other people think about it. Do any of you work for free? And if so, what sort of conditions do you work under when you do that? Why do you do it? Is there a particular reason for it? I'll go through mine as when we get to that section of the show. And then we'll give some feedback on the image from the challenge. I've got another section from my Introduction to Digital Photography course that I'll play in, and that's all about image simplification, about the third of our guidelines, simplify, getting rid of anything that distracts. So I'll play that in, and then we've got our live Q&A at the end, and we've got the giveaway. The thing that you're all here for, the goodies, the freebies. Well, if you want to be in with a chance of our giveaway, which is a 5-in-1 folding reflector from Pixar Pro, then what I want you to do is put a comment in last week's live stream, all the weeks before, and then I'll look at those later. I'll talk about it in a few minutes. But yeah, what's going on in the news? What's in the news? Well, I've got no particular photography news to talk about. There's one thing I can hint at that's coming up in a few weeks' time. There will be a new version of Lightroom coming out. I have access to the preview on it. I've had a look at it. Nothing major, a few cosmetic changes on there. More than that I can't say because of non-disclosure agreements, but I'm going to try and put something together this week all about that, so I can get it on the channel as soon as it comes out, my thoughts about the changes in Lightroom in the new version. I have a new video up online. I know some of the people who watch this are people I've met on cruises, and we can't go travelling at the moment, so if you want to be an armchair traveller and visit Cabo Verde, the island of Sal, then I've got a new travel log up about a day's trip that I did round there a couple of years ago. Take you on a tour of the island, so you're welcome to have a look at that. In fact, I'd encourage you to have a look at it, and I'll share with you some of the photos from that particular trip. Yeah, the 5-in-1 reflector giveaway from Pixar Pro. Right, let me pull up the right screen on here, and then if I go like that, yep, that is the device that we're giving away. I'm giving away. Thanks to Rick for organising it all. It's a 5-in-1 folding reflector. We talked a bit about how to use reflectors in the last of these live streams. So if you're not familiar with them and their use, go and have a look at that. If you want to be in with a chance to win it, then what you need to do is you need to look in YouTube. Yeah. Let me get on the right screen here. Look in YouTube for last week's live stream, all the weeks before, and put a comment in either of those. Either will do. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to look at all the comments on there, put them into a little spreadsheet, use a random number generator, and whichever name comes up on there will be the winner of the reflector. So that's a chance. Go and do that now before we get to that particular point. Right, so our 3-minute Lightroom challenge. Drum roll. Our victim this week for the challenge is Richard Lovelock, who sent in a photo for both myself and Rick Bradbury to have a go at. And for those who don't know what the challenge is, we have 3 minutes to edit a raw file that we haven't seen before, and we talk you through it. And we both do it independently, so they're pre-recorded to make sure that neither of us see the other's edits. So completely independent, and it's to try and show you how 2 different photographers will tackle one particular image in generally in different ways. Now, I've only got 1 more image to do, so I've got one for next week, but after that I've run out. So if you would like to submit an image for the 3-minute challenge and have your image featured on there, then drop me a message during the week. Send it to contact me at ians-studio.co.uk. You can find that email address on my website, or contact me through Facebook, through the Facebook group, and I'll give you some instructions on exactly how we want you to supply the images so that we don't see what you've done in advance, so that we're coming into the edit without seeing your edits first, because we don't want to be influenced by what you've done. Without further ado, let me get you started and play in the first edit tonight, which is Rick's, and then we'll come back and I'll move on from there. So here's Rick's 3-minute edit on Richard Lovelock's photo. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another 3-minute Lightroom edit challenge. My name's Rick Bradbury. I am not there with Ian for this live stream due to the current circumstances, so I'm pre-recording some of these for his shows. So thank you, Ian, for letting me take part in these, and thank you to Richard for sending the image in for today's show. This is not the image, this is just a holding image, by the way, to save us looking at a boring Lightroom screen. So what we'll do, we will get ready to switch over to Richard's image and we will get cracking. Oh, where's my clock gone? Right, there we go. And we will start. So we'll switch over and here we are. Okay, so we have a portrait. First thing I'm just going to double check here is the composition, which seems fine, seems well balanced enough for a half-length portrait. Let's get that off Adobe Color. Seriously. Right, and we will go for the profile corrections. This was shot, by the way, on a Canon 5D Mark III with a 70-200 at 112mm f10 160th ISO 100. There we go. That's all we need to know about that. And we will get to editing. First thing that's first, we need to lift the exposure. Now, I'm not going to do any kind of color correction at this point because we need to do a fair change on exposure and contrast first. So we're going to give it probably about half a stop there. We will go into medium contrast curve. At that point, make sure all color, noise reduction's off for now, and I'm going to give a little bit of a boost on the shadows. Now we've got to be careful with files from these cameras because if you go too far, it looks like crap. So not push too far on the older Canon RAW files to there, and let's go just a little bit on the curve here. Just a little bit of a lift, which will do the rest of the exposure work for us. At that point, highlight wise, we've got plenty of wiggle room in there before we start to need to worry about it really. You have to push it quite far before it blows, and it's not even doing that at that stage. So at least now we've got the t-shirt looking white, and let's have a look at the white balance at this stage. It's not too bad at default, come across a little bit warm, so it's probably flash white balance setting on that camera. So we'll just cool it down just a touch there, and take a little bit of magenta out of it. Go a little bit on global contrast, doesn't need a whole lot. I don't want to bring the blacks down because we're still going to start to lose a little bit of detail there. We'll go a little bit on the texture, and we will go with a little bit of sharpening. 20 seconds left, oh my god, right. Let's crank that up. A little bit of sharpening there. And we are probably about good to go. So we have the before and after, which isn't doing the full changes, but there we go. But that's my edit on this image here. I don't know why that wasn't working on the before and after. Maybe it's the DNG format, I don't know. But there we go. Thank you very much for sending that file in. We'll hand over to Ian to do his edit. I suspect now that's the format he's been running on the previous ones. And then I'll come back and give a little bit of feedback shortly.
Right, that's better. Thank you, Rick, for your 3-minute edit on there. Mine's coming up in a short while, and before then I'm going to do my first Q&A in this. Not got a huge amount on Q&A this week so far. Nothing left over from last week, and nothing in the chat yet. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll pick them up in part 2 of Q&A later. One thing just to warn you, don't leave it till the last minute, because we seem to get an inherent delay between me speaking here and you hearing me. It's at least 30 seconds. It has been as long as 2 minutes, and that's caused some problems right at the end of the show where there's been a bit of a long delay, and I've said put any questions into the chat. I've not seen any. So I've closed off the show, only to be, by the time I've closed off the show here, that's the point when you're actually hearing me ask for the questions, so I've not got them in time. So do get them in early, just to allow for that delay that we sometimes have. Right, okay, so that's the thing about the chat on there. Yeah, if you've got questions that you want me to cover in the next show or future shows, please email them to me at contactme@ians-studio.co.uk. You can always get that email address off my website. It's available on there for you to contact me, or through Facebook. I'm easy to find on there, as I think most of you that I can see in the chat are members of the Facebook group that I run anyway. So, image feedback. I was sent a photo this week by Michael Hancock. Now, Michael, I don't know whether you're watching this. I hope you are. If you are and you've got access to the live chat, just let me know on there that you're in here and that you're watching this. The photograph was taken quite a while back. And it was submitted to a village show in Little Gaddesden. And it was a prize-winning image in the show. It won Best in Show, and it's a photograph of his granddaughter's 5th birthday party, and it was taken many years ago. There's been very little editing on it. That's the information I've got. So let's have a look at the image. Right, here's the image I was sent. The theme of the competition was apparently emotion. And I've got to say that it really has captured the idea of emotion in this image, with both the girls laughing and smiling, and you can see that it's really captured their emotion of the day, the joy that they're having at this party. Now, I think from that point of view, it's a really nice photo. Oh, excuse me, folks. A couple of things I just want to comment about with it is, these are more nitpicks than anything, so don't take it too harshly on there. But because of the situation, I know it's very much a grab shot. But if you were composing this, there are a couple of things just to watch out for. watch out with the chairs directly above the head of the two girls there. It's better to try and have a cleaner background now. So if you'd have taken a few paces just to your right, this, now get this right, yeah, this area of blank up here is what would appear behind the heads, and that's a much cleaner shot for the image. It would also potentially help you hide this chair on the edge, which is again just slightly distracting there. And again, I know it was difficult in the circumstances to avoid that. It looks like you've done some editing on it. I don't know whether that's just a crop, but always be careful about cropping through knees. I'd have thought if this was a vertical shot, I don't know whether it was, then if you'd taken the crop down just a little bit lower, that might have helped a little bit with that. But these are just, really, they are just shot. It's capturing an instant of time. It's capturing what's going on. And what I'm saying are really just, they're nitpicks. They're not anything to detract from the image. And I can see why it's won. It really is. It's a lovely shot and one that you can be proud of. I just want to say I really do like it. It's always difficult when given these sort of images to talk about. As photographers like this, I always feel duty bound to try and find things and to suggest things. And so I've picked up on a couple of items there, but I don't want you to take that away as being all sort of bad news on it. It's not. I really do like the images and some good work gone into there. Right. Just having a quick look over at the chat. Rick is saying, cracking shot, is a great moment, genuine smile, reaction. Well done for actually getting the reaction in there and reacting to that instant and knowing to press the shutter at that exact point. So great image. Not really got much else to say about it on there. Right, so let's move on. 3-minute challenge again. This time it's my turn. No, that says Rick's edit. It's my edit this time. And one of these days I'm actually going to get these PowerPoint slides right over my shoulder. I don't think I've had the 3-minute edit ones spot on any of these yet. Right, so let's have a look at my edit and see what I made of it. Right, I'm back with another 3-minute Lightroom edit challenge. This time the image has been supplied by Richard Lovelock, and it's a portrait, pointing in the right direction. And let's go over to the develop module, start the timer and see what I can do in 3 minutes. So, develop module, timer starts. Right, okay, we've got some settings already on there. I'm going to reset that. And wow, underexposed. Right, let's first of all fix the exposure and just bring that up. Got to be a little bit careful with the highlights on there, so bring up the shadows. White balance, I'm assuming that was a grey background, so I'll use that as my tones on there. Right, lens corrections as ever need to go in there. That's helped a little bit. Now, what are we going to do with those shadows on there? We need to bring that up. And maybe the blacks as well to get the detail back. A little bit of clarity. I'm beginning to think this one's probably a black and white image, so let's have a look what we've got in our black and white settings. I've got 2 minutes to this. I think black and white 7 is quite good on this one because it helps bring out some of the detail in things. Right, let me go full screen as well so you can see a little bit better the different ones. So I'm going to go black and white 7, close. Right, I've got 1 minute 30 left. Right, now then, I've got some noise because we've had to bring that out. So noise reduction in the detail. Right, whack the colour one up because that always helps. Luminance up on there. Right, okay, and the contrast. Right, okay, that's all I'm going to have time to do on that. So now back to basic tab. Looking at, I know I do this a lot, but I'm going to add a vignette on here. So effects, just a very slight vignette I think will help this one. Feather it off on there. Back to basic, I've got 47 seconds. It's those highlights I'm concerned about. If I bring that down and bring the exposure up slightly, we've got there. Now, I'm going to bring the texture down on the skin. I've got 31 seconds, therefore, to paint back the texture. So, okay, adjustment brush, reset everything, and texture. I'm going to bring that back, and small brush. I'm just going to paint some more texture back in on the eyes where I took it out, on the mouth. Let's bring the flow back up as well. I've got 7 seconds. Bring that back there. More texture on here. Just try and bring back what I've lost. And that's as far as I can go with it. Stop. Right, ran out of time on that one. But that would be my edit for this one there, Richard. Again, black and white I think serves the image well. I think we've dealt with some of the issues of the original file on there. So thanks for submitting it. Thanks for letting me loose on the image. I'll talk about the composition and the settings and the image in general live back in the studio. So join me back there. Right, okay, thank you. Right, let's see. We're back. Yes. As you can tell there, my edit on the image was a bit different to Rick's. A little bit later on, we'll give a bit of feedback on there. But now I want to turn my attention to the topic of working for free. And I asked the question earlier if there was anybody else who does work for free. Let me just scroll back through my through the chat. Yeah, Michael says that he works for free because he works with cosplayers who rarely pay for the photos. Ouch. There's only one he says there's only one person I know that is getting paid for shoots. That's not by any chance Kev Pack, is it, who's getting paid for it? Because I know Kev does a lot of cosplay work. But yeah, I mean, there's a trade-off there. You're getting the service, effectively you're getting the services of a model to work with in return for doing the shoots with that, Michael. What I particularly want to talk about is more about doing commercial work for free. And I was highly amused by this particular meme that turned up on Facebook this week. Well, you can read it for yourselves. That everyone talking about people complaining that they can't do their jobs because they're not getting paid, and photographers saying, "Well, think about the exposure," because that's what everybody says about photographers. They'll say, "Oh, can we use your image? It'll be great exposure." Well, I have a standard reply these days to anybody who tells me I will get exposure for letting them use my images. People die of exposure. Anyway, let's look at this topic in a bit more detail. It'll be interesting to see if anybody else does work for free. Right, so let's move on. Yeah, I actually don't like the term working for free in this context. I tend to use a slightly different term. I don't know whether anybody else uses it, but my preferred term is non-paid commercial work. And the reason I use that term is because if I am choosing to work for free, and I'll explain when I do that in a little while, I'm going to treat it the same as if it was a commercial job. So it's a professional engagement. The fact that I'm not getting paid for it is almost irrelevant to it as to how I treat the work. I still want to be professional and produce the best images I can, regardless of whether I'm being paid or not. So it's a non-paid commercial work. And when I do it, it's my choice to do it. It's not because I feel pushed into a corner. It's not because somebody has said, oh no, we need this, but we can't pay you. It's I choose to do it, and under very specific circumstances. And I may still charge expenses to do it. I may say, well, in order to do this, I'm going to incur costs. If you want me to do it, I'm going to need to charge at least for that. And if you can't cover that, then really, I'm sorry, I just can't do this at all, and I'm not going to do it. And I need to say that doing work on that basis is very much the exception, not the rule, and it should never be the rule for photographers or any other creatives for that matter. If your work is producing music, if it's producing writing plays, things like that, you deserve to be paid for that work. So it should be the exception rather than the rule. There may be times where it's important to do it, and there may be benefits of doing it, and reasons why you might want to do it. So when and why would I work for free? Well, one time I would do it is if I want to gain some experience in something. And let me give you an example on this. This one hasn't happened, but I would like to improve some of my architectural photography work. Now, I can do architectural work, but I'm not an expert in that. If a photographer approached me, who is an architectural photographer, who said to me, I need a second camera for a particular job, would I be willing to do it, effectively in return for their mentoring on that job? That's worthwhile me doing it to gain that extra experience. And so there are circumstances I would do work like that because I want to gain the experience from it and to learn and improve my skills, and it's worth it for that. I know, looking at the chat, the few of you there are people who work with models, and it's no different to the situation that models find themselves in. When they want to learn something, they will do time for work, time for prints, time for images, and that is all about doing work that's not being paid as such. Yes, to gain paid in terms of images, but that's to gain experience, to improve their skill set. And we as photographers need to do that as well. So another example might be if there is a particular lighting technique that I want to work on in the studio. Maybe I'm thinking about doing a training session here on a particular technique. I need to really improve on it and practice and try things out. I might approach a model who's looking for images for her portfolio and say, look, let's collaborate. I won't charge you for providing images for your portfolio, and I'll spend half the time shooting what you want, whatever that is, for your portfolio, if we can spend half the time or part of the time, a small part of the time, for me to get the images I need. So that's another sort of example where it's all about gaining experience. And I think that's a valid situation for working for free. Another time might be when I think it might lead on to other work. And I do this with theatre photography and offering that. Now, I do a lot of, when we're not on lockdown, theatre photography work. I'm now the official photographer for 3 local theatres. And with some of those, the way I got my foot in the door was offering to shoot a particular production or organising the shoot of a particular production so that I could show to them what's possible. And there is one particular theatre, Woodford Players, that over the years I'd done quite a few free shoots for them. I'm a member there, I act there, and yeah, perhaps slightly selfishly, some of the shoots were because I was involved in the production and I wanted photos of it. But there came a time where I actually said to the theatre, I said, look, it's not fair on my other clients for me to do this for free. I know I'm a member here, but it's not fair on them. If you want me to carry on doing this, I need to be paid. And I put in prices on that. And they came back and said, yeah, okay, we know what you can do, and because we've seen what you can do, we're willing to pay you. So I would never have got that work had I not done the freebies beforehand. So there are times when it's worth doing it because you know it will lead to other work. The other time I will do it is when I want to support a charity or support an organisation, something that might be close to my heart. A couple of years ago I was doing the Greater Manchester 10K, and some friends were doing it to raise money for a particular charity. Now, I wasn't running for a charity. I didn't particularly want to run for a charity on that occasion, especially as the pool of people I'd have been asking for sponsorship were very similar to the pool that my friends were. So rather than trying to raise money for them, what I did for the charity was I said, right, I will bring my camera along and I will do some photos of all the people wearing your charity shirts as they're lining up to do the run, and afterwards with the medals and things like that, that you can then use for publicity purposes. So yeah, I wasn't getting paid for it, but it was a way I could support the charity that my friends were supporting. So that's another reason I might do it. If there's if the organisation is one that I have an affinity with, I will do that for churches, particularly churches that I'm involved with. My own church, they've launched a cafe, again closed down obviously at the moment, but that's a fairly new venture, and I've done some photographs for that to help publicise it, and I'll be going back to do some more once it reopens, because I want to support the charity work that's going on there. So that's another reason why I might work for free, and I'd encourage people to support charities that way. So the terms and conditions, I do always put terms and conditions when I work for free, and I think it's important that we have these. I retain the copyright. Any organisation that says to me, we want you to work for free and we want the copyright, well, they'll get a very short answer consisting of 2 words and the last word being off. I retain copies of the images. I've come across organisations that have said, we'd like this photographer to do some do some photographs for us, but at the end of it we need you to provide us with all the images and you're not allowed to keep them. Sorry, same response. 2 words ending in off on that. Not interested. It's not fair on the photographer. I always say to any organisation that I do work for free for, that they may not use the images to sell products. What do I mean by that? I don't mean they can't use them for publicity. That's fair enough. So they can use it to publicise a theatre or publicise a cafe, things like that. What they can't do is put those photographs on mugs and sell the mugs. They can't put them on t-shirts and sell the t-shirts. If they're going to do that, they need to come back to me and we need to organise either a buyout for that, a license for that, or a percentage cut on the sales for that sort of thing. So that's always one of my terms and conditions if I'm working for free. And what else? Yeah, credit line. If these are going to be used in print or online, they must give me a credit line for doing it. If they don't do that, sorry, not doing it. I need to gain some benefit for it. There is an issue I've come across when working for free, particularly for charities and organisations, and that's the issue of minors, of children in the shots, and it's a sensitive issue. So one of my terms and conditions, to be honest, this one applies whether I'm being paid or not, but it's very much a red line for me when working for free, and that is, if there are likely to be minors in the shot, then the organisation needs to deal with getting hold of the necessary permissions from the parents. If they're not able to do that, then I'm not willing to do the work, because it's just not worth the risk. Also tied up with that is that I always reserve the right to use any of the images from the shoot that don't have minors in. I'll make an exception on that. But anything that hasn't got kids in, I reserve the right to use. And if they're not willing to give me that right and they want them exclusively. Now, I don't mind deferring if there's a particular reason why this is to do with a launch or something, then I can hold back for a few weeks or a few months. But I reserve the right to use those images myself, usually as case studies, usually as blog posts and things like that on there. If they have got minors in, then basically my rule is that any that the organisation choose to use that have got kids in, that are deemed to be acceptable for me to use as well. So those are my terms and conditions that I always attach to working for free. So my advice to anyone who's considering this is think through how it affects your business, how your photography, and work out what your terms and conditions are going to be beforehand. And if you want to have a look at the full set of these, I've got, it's up on my website. If you go to actually let me bring it up on the screen over here and switch over. Right. So if I go to for businesses, and down under here, where is it? Non-paid commercial work. So if you want to read up on this and need a copy of those sort of terms and conditions for anything that you're doing, if you go here, you can find basically what I've just said, because the PowerPoint slides are based very much on this page, and all the terms and conditions are written down there. And feel free to cut and paste that and use it as a basis of your own work if you're ever going to be doing work for free on there. Right, let's go back to PowerPoint. Yeah, I want to just take this on a little bit further and talk about the most common thing that happens in connection with all this, and that is the "Can we use your photo for free?" Now, go on. So in the chat, folks, do say whether you've ever had someone approach you to use one of your images for free. Let's see. We've got 22 concurrent viewers at the moment. Let's see how many of the 22 have actually had that. Or actually, put in if you've never had it. I don't think there'll be anyone, but put in if you have. I'd be really interested to know on that. So, get my next point up. Yeah, it does happen way too often that we get those sort of requests in. And for me, the answer is almost invariably no, often followed by "go away," but perhaps a little bit more tactfully. However, I do want to draw your attention to this photo and the story that goes with it. This is the Georgian Dragon in Cheadle, just a few miles up the road from me. I did it as a stock image a few years ago. It's up for sale on Alamy. And then, a couple of years ago, I got a request. A videographer approached me, and he was doing the video, a funeral video or a commemoration video for someone, and they wanted to, who used to live in Cheadle, and they wanted to use it as part of that. And I thought, well, that's a really difficult one. It's a bit harsh to say, no, you're not using it when it's in connection with a funeral. But also, I didn't want to just give a carte blanche answer to it. So instead, I asked a question. I asked whether the videographer was creating the video for free. And if he was creating it for free, then I was going to let him use it, just to support the fact that he was supporting a family that was going through a bereavement. And I thought it didn't seem right to charge if it was those sort of circumstances. However, if he was getting paid for it, I didn't see why my image should be available, why my work should be deemed not worthy of payment if his work was deemed worthy of payment. And instead, I asked for a small fee if he was getting paid. I felt that was fair. However, I wanted that fee not to be paid to me, but to be paid to the Alzheimer's Society. You see what I've done there? I've put a value on my work, but I've not been the person who's trying to benefit from it. I'm trying to actually help other people from through that. So that was the situation, and I left that with them. And eventually, I got a reply. And the reply was, the end result was, they looked at the image and they decided actually they didn't want to use it after all. But because I'd been generous in saying that they could use it without any financial reward to me, even though they weren't going to use it, they still wanted to make a donation to the Alzheimer's Society. So I would say that was a win-win. Just something to think about as a way of dealing with questions on can I use your image for free? Okay, let's have a look at the chat and see what other people have had with that. Tony's saying, yeah, all the time he gets people asking for images for free. Tony, what do you tell them? Do you tell them to go away? Oh, right. Michael asked was asked if they could sell photos of his image. Ooh, ouch. Yeah. told them there'd be a cost and never heard from them again. Yeah, that's usually the story, isn't it? Once we start saying and putting a value on our work, people tend to go away, don't they? I think we do need to educate people on the value of our work as photographers. I think that's very, very important. I noticed nobody saying that they never get that kind of request. Yeah, Steve saying, asking the question, do I collaborate? I don't know whether that came in before I mentioned this thing about the time for and using that as an example. Yes, I will collaborate if I think it's in both our interests, whether that's with a model or with other photographers or with other companies. If there is a gain for both of us, then yes, it's worth collaborating on that. On there. So yeah, that's really sort of sums up my thoughts on working for free. I hope that's of interest and of help to you. Yeah, Tony says in answer to my question about how he responds to it, yeah, his second word is the same as mine. It's something off. Yeah. Right, okay. So let's move on. Back to our 3-minute challenge and back to Richard Lovelock's image. And let's provide a little bit of feedback. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play in Rick's feedback on the image, and then I will open up Lightroom and give you my feedback as well. So, over to Rick.
Okay, back in Lightroom. What I'm going to do is, if I reset this image, first thing off the bat to note is it's dark. It's a bit underexposed, and we can see that from the histogram. We've got a huge amount of wiggle room in the histogram there to lift it. So we'll undo that there. So this could have been done with being shot at around f8. Would have been a better exposure to start with. At that point you could have gone to ISO 160 instead. That would have done it also, or of course increase the flash power at that point. So we'll undo the reset settings. Now, composition wise, like I said earlier on, fine, nice balanced shot. For a half length, couple of things that we need to look at. I'm not quite sure why she's doing this, whether it's she's got a headache, migraine, trying to read my mind. Not quite sure what the story is behind that. Now there could be very well be a reason that I don't know about. I wasn't there at the time, granted, but I'm left wondering as a new viewer to the image why. We can tell it was lit from camera left position because we can see a large shadow from the hand and the arm cast on the face here. So a way to combat that and get more light in this eye would have been to bring the light further round. Also watch for this jacket as well, as it's folded and flares out. It's kind of a flat area of clothing that's here that can start to suggest that the person who's wearing it is a little wider than they are or bigger than they are potentially, so just watch for clothing problems like that. It looks like quite a difficult jacket to deal with in that because of the cut and how it's stitched and how I suspect that it will hang on the body. Well, the main thing is really watch for the shadows being cast on the face. Now this could have come from hair, from bangs. It's not the hardest light in the world, but again it's not the softest. We can see by the highlight to shadow transition lines there. It looks like it was more of a is it a strip box or maybe the edge of a soft box that I'm seeing in the curvature of the eye. So quite a narrow source by the look of it, quite punchy, quite contrasty. They're wearing a black top, so you do get a lot of blocking shadow here at this point. What separates the rest of the jacket from that happening is obviously it's shiny material, so we see the highlights being picked up there at that point. But just watch for the light placement, the light source and type that's used as well. And again, I'm not 100% sure on this action or pose here as to why or what the story is behind that really at that point. But it's quite distracting having the hand shadow here. Another thing that you get as well is quite a bright back of the hand versus the face, because the face typically sees more sun. Day to day we'll have makeup, foundation on as well. The underside of the hands tends not to go too bright, but the backs of the hands, sides of the hands will. Angle of incidence, angle of reflection of the light. So we need to watch for that. But overall, thank you very much for sending that in. Nicely composed shot, a little dark off the bat on the exposure. So thank you very much for sending that in, Richard, and I will hand back over to Ian now.
Right, okay, so Rick's actually covered most of the things I was going to say about the image. Right, I've gone up on the screen now. You can see Richard's edit on the image here. Actually, if I go full screen for a moment so that I can show them a little bit better. Yeah, we've got Richard's edit here, which is a closer crop. Now, I like that sort of crop, but the one thing I would just caution about this sort of thing is you're throwing away a lot of pixels to go from a portrait orientation to go vertical orientation to a horizontal orientation like that. Now, it's 5D Mark III camera, but even so, there's a lot of data that's being lost there. So I would have thought, yeah, do that kind of crop in camera rather than doing it in post-production. With your edit, Richard, there's a couple of things I would say. Is the highlights on the forehead, they are very bright on there. I've got away with it a little bit on the black and white, but even on there, it's a little bit much. So if I do full screen and then zoom in, yeah, it's just under. It's not blown out completely once Lightroom loads it properly on there, but it is a bit bright even on my version on there. So just watch those highlights with your images. As Rick said, that pose, it does look like it's either hypnotizing or trying to send a psychic signal to someone. What bothers me a little bit about it is the crop here. I'd like, if you're going to go for this horizontal crop, I'd like to see it perhaps start on the edge here and have a little bit more space in front, so that she's got more space to look into the image than we have at the moment on there with it. It doesn't seem to matter on the vertical, but on the horizontal that does matter. A couple of other things to watch. You've got quite a few flyaway hairs up here, which are a little bit distracting on it. I think I would light it, if that pose was definitely what I wanted, I'd light it differently. I'd bring the light round so I can get the light onto the face. It was definitely underexposed on the version I was looking at. Let me just remind myself on that. Yeah, 1.5 stops underexposed with it. I had to pull it up to get a reasonable exposure with it. And we can see even with there, we're still nowhere near the top on the histogram with it. So watch your exposure. Make sure that you don't that doesn't happen. Check the histogram on the back of your camera, basically when you're shooting, and that would have been obvious on the histogram that it was underexposed. And other than that, I don't know that there's much else I want to add on top of what Rick's already said with it. I actually quite like the jacket. I know Rick says it's a problem one. I like the darkness on it. I think that can work. You do need to make sure that we don't lose all the detail. We can see on the histogram here, we've not gone into the point where all the detail's lost and the blacks are plugged up with that. So yeah, nice image, strange pose, not convinced by your crop, I think is the bullet points on that from me. So if I just change a few things around on my screens just for a moment on that. Right, yeah, let me just have a look at the chat at this point, because if I'm not much mistaken, no, it's not what I thought. Next thing I'm going to play in the beginner's course. It's an 11-minute video again this week, folks, for the beginners. Can I just ask those of you who are in chat there, who's finding the beginner's course helpful? If I know some of you are quite experienced on that, and I'm just want to make sure I'm still aiming this at the right audience. So if you think I'm teaching grandmothers to suck eggs on this, then do let me know. But let me play in the video, and then let me know in the chat if you think those aren't helpful to people. So I'll see you after this.
Okay, back in Lightroom.
Oh, no.
What I'm going to do,
hang on,
is
stop,
if
stop,
I
stop.
reset this image,
Stop.
first thing off the
Go
bat,
away, Rick.
so no, it's dark.
Right, okay, that appears to have been sending the wrong image there. Right, oh, Ron says he is interested in it, if I can just find it. Right, it appears I've linked the wrong file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find the file on here. It means part of Rick's talk will play in while I'm doing it, but then it'll cut over. So my apologies for this. I'll do this as quick as I can, folks.
Okay, back in Lightroom. What I'm going to do is if I reset this image, first thing off the bat, to note is it's dark. It's a bit underexposed, and we can see that from the histogram. We've got a huge amount of wiggle room in the histogram there to lift it. So we'll undo that there. So this could have been done with being shot at around f8. Would have been a better exposure to start with. At that point you could have gone to ISO 160 instead. That would have done it also, or of course increase the flash power.
Hello, welcome to video 10 in Composition and Point of View, part of the Introduction to Digital Photography course. In our previous videos, we've been looking at the guidelines for composition, and we've looked at the first two guidelines so far. And those are subject, what is it that I am trying to photograph? Focus, how am I going to draw my viewer's attention to my chosen subject? And now it's time to move on to our third guideline of composition, and that is simplify. How do I get rid of anything that detracts or distracts from my chosen subject? Now this is going to be different for every image that we make. So all I can do in this course is give you a few pointers and a few things to look at. I can't cover everything, but if you look at the principles and take on board the principles I talk about, that will stand you in good stead. So, for example, in a moment I'm going to put an image up on the screen, and when I do, what I want you to do is make a mental note or shout out at the screen, whatever you wish. What is the first thing that you see when you see this image? So 3, 2, 1, go. Now, I would be amazed if the first thing that you saw wasn't the yellow carrier bag. Now, why is that? That's because the human eye is drawn to bright colours. Now let me tell you the story behind this particular photograph. I was doing a shoot up on the hills to illustrate about people going on the hills being ill-prepared. And what you see here are two experienced models who happen to be experienced hill walkers as well. And I'd said to them, as well as bringing your hiking gear, bring some outfits which look as though you've gone up there without being properly prepared for the conditions. And so, for example, it might be a flimsy cardi instead of a waterproof, or sandals instead of walking boots, and, oh, I don't know, a carrier bag instead of a rucksack. Well, we'd done the first part of the shoot where they were in the full hiking gear and they were looking all prepared, and then I said, right, let's do the other. So they got changed and we were just about to start shooting, and they said, oh yes, we remember what you said, we've got the carrier bag. So they fished out this bright yellow carrier bag, and my heart just sank because I knew what would happen with a bag like that in a photograph. It would draw the attention. But because I'm a gentleman, I didn't want to offend them, so I said, oh, thanks very much, and we shot a few frames with the bag in there. And then I said, well, you know, let's just try a few shots without. And when we did that, this is what we got. Now, where's your eye drawn with this photo? Well, it's drawn to the bright areas. And the bright areas are the model's faces, which show the expressions, their fear, their concern about being on the hills ill-prepared, and their feet, which shows that they haven't got the right walking gear, that they've only got sandals on. So this is a much better image for simplifying it by removing the carrier bag. It helps us tell the story. The lesson from this is avoid bright areas away from your chosen subject. All right with the subject, as you can see here, it draws attention to it. Away from your subject, it draws attention away from the subject, so you don't want that. Right, here's another example of simplification. I've shown this image before. This is my wife in St. Peter's Square, and there's a bit of a story behind this image, in that it was a dull day. It was that horrible white sky that kills every kind of photograph. And what I've done here is I've chosen an angle very carefully to make sure that that white area between the columns isn't visible. So a couple of paces to one side or the other, and it wouldn't quite work. So I've simplified it that way. Not only that, I've simplified it another way. There used to be, or there was, a waste paper basket in front of one of the pillows. And in front of that pillar, I just moved it out of the way before I created the shot. So I've simplified it there. And now, if I couldn't have done it in situ, I would have simplified the shot by removing it in post-production. Now, again, still in Rome, there's a lesson to be learned from this. This is the Jewish synagogue in Rome, and this illustrates 2 points. The first one about simplification is think about which way up you need to hold the camera, whether you want to do a horizontal shot or a vertical shot. And in this one, you might think the obvious shot is the horizontal, but as we'll see in a minute, the vertical allows us to include something that makes the image better. So that's the next point. Be careful not to oversimplify an image. Because if you simplify too much, you can remove elements which are actually adding to the image. So in this case, turn the camera around, I can add in the lamppost, which acts as a framing element on this image, which makes it a much stronger image for having that there. And if I cut it out, even though you might think it's nothing to do with the image, it actually diminishes it because I've removed a focusing element from the shot. The next tip is make sure that you use the correct zoom for your subject. Here in Jerash in Jordan, this image can be simplified by simply zooming in. And if you can't zoom in, use your feet, the manual zoom walk closer to your subject. Also look about areas that don't add anything to your image. Think about cropping. Now, zooming in is great, but it doesn't change the aspect ratio. Now, in post-production, we can always crop our images to create a tighter, better composition. Now, this isn't free rein to just shoot wide and then just crop things off later. It's about thinking about your composition when you're shooting it, but with the knowledge that you may need to adjust it in post-production. And in this one, the top areas above the red line there, that's not adding anything to this image at all. And consequently, we've also got this big white area down below, so we could actually take some of that out as well. Don't want to lose all of it because we've got this nice reflection here. But if I crop the image in post-production, I get a much tighter shot and a much better shot for doing that crop. Another principle to think about when trying to simplify your images is to avoid mergers. Now, what do I mean by a merger? Well, this is where two items that shouldn't come together, that shouldn't merge together, appear to do so in the image. And the classic example of all this is the tree sticking out of somebody's head. We've all shot images like that. Let's admit it. We've all done it. But it's not just that. It can also be what we call colour mergers, where two similar colours or brightnesses merge together and your subject just disappears into the background because of it. Let me show you a couple of examples. Here's one sort of merger with chimney sticking out of the head of my subject. Doesn't look good at all. The solution, change the angle, change the composition, and I've got a much stronger composition here with my subject seated. I've got all the same elements in. You can still see the steps, you can see him, you can see the buildings behind, and I've also added in some daffodils to make it pretty. Here we've got the other type of merger, the merging into the background, the colour merger. And the hair on our model here has just vanished into the black background. So what's the solution? The solution is to light it correctly, a rim light. Those of you who do studio work or want to do studio work will learn about how you light correctly in a studio, and rim lighting is a very, very powerful technique. It adds that edge to an image to stop your subject disappearing into the background. Our final technique is something we've touched on before as a technique for focus, for drawing attention, and that is the use of a shallow depth of field. Here we're using it to simplify the image. The background is cluttered a little bit. Those black blobs that you can see there are actually gravestones. And I wanted the attention to be on the robin, not on the background. So by choosing that shallow depth of field, I managed to throw the background out of focus, and the robin then really stands out because of that. I've got rid of those distractions that way. The only caveat I've got with simplifying images with shallow depth of field, you need to make sure that it truly is out of focus and that you haven't got a shape that people looking at the image go, I think I can see something there. What is that behind? Is it a bus? Is it a car? Make sure it's truly out of focus so that it's not asking a question of your viewer as well. So those are some techniques for simplifying your images, for removing distractions and detractions in the image. In our next video, still part of the same course, still part of the composition and point of view module, I'm going to give you another exercise, really to sort of build on this and to consolidate the techniques that we've been looking at. So, see you in the next video. Okay, and we're back. Right, sorry about that problem right at the beginning, folks. I'd obviously linked my button to the wrong video. It just needed to be relinked. And unfortunately, I don't know the way of doing that without actually playing the video that's currently linked there at the start. So you got 2 doses of Rick talking there. So really sorry about that. Right, okay, Q&A. Let's move on to that. I've got a few things from the chat. Oh, they're back. Yeah. First thing to note from the chat is not a it's not a question as such, but just a bit of information, a bit of news that I think I had vaguely heard about this, but hadn't really made a note to mention it. Amazon currently doing a deal with Lightroom for I think a year's subscription for Lightroom and Photoshop for just £73.66, which if you are thinking of getting it, then that might be a good deal to look for. I don't know whether you can extend an existing subscription at that price, but if you can, again, it's a good deal. I've had a question from Rick Bradbury about two different flash modes and the difference between high-speed sync and hypersync. Well, I think that's probably one for a different show. I think that's what Rick was getting at anyway. And I think actually I'll save that for a time when Rick is able to actually join me here in the studio. So it might be a few weeks away before I can deal with that one, I'm afraid, because Rick knows far more about that than I do. So I'd rather have him here to be part of that discussion. The other question that I've got in chat comes from Tim Cosford, and he wants to know, what is my typical, if there is such a thing, fairly quick editing workflow for skin softening of female models that is short of the advanced things like frequency separation? I do like short questions. It is a relatively easy one to explain. However, to be able to talk you through it, I need to have a suitable image on the screen and in Lightroom to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that one till next week. I'll pick it up in the first part of Q&A next week, Tim, if that's okay. And I'll deal with it then, and I'll bring an image into Lightroom and I can walk you through the steps that I use at that point, rather than trying to do it now, where I'd be scrabbling around trying to find a suitable image. If I haven't got the right sort of image, it won't be a nice smooth explanation of what I'm doing. So hopefully that's okay for you. Right, so those I believe are my the only questions that I've had in this week. So if you have got any more, or things occur to you during the week, stick them into the in the comments, or in an email, or in my Facebook group, and I can pick them up in a future live stream and deal with them then. So now let's move on. Big drum roll. I still can't do the drum roll on the desk. The giveaway. Right. Okay. So let me go over to the right screens on here. Right. So change over so you can see what's going on. Yep. Right. On the monitor here, I've gone through while the video is going on, and I've noted down the names of all the people who have posted comments in the last two live streams, and the last one in was Stuart Rees. I'm just going to refresh this, make sure I've not missed anything that's just come in the last couple of minutes since I last checked. And no, Stuart's was the last one that I received on there. Everybody else was either on the previous one or on this. Let me actually think. Yeah, no, that covers all my videos in that one. So we're fine on there. So now, random number generator. No, that's Facebook. Don't want that. Go away. Random number generator. There it is, my random number generator. So we've got 9 different people on there. I'm going to put in a maximum of 9. So 1 to 9. We will hit generate, and the answer is Number 4, Richard Lovelock. Congratulations, Richard. You are the winner this time round. Drop me an email with your contact details. I've probably got them somewhere. Just make sure I've got the up-to-date ones. I can forward that on to Rick, who's organising this. He will forward it on to Pixar, who will get the thing dispatched to you. Now, bear with them if there's any delay because of obviously the current situation on there, but we'll get that to you as soon as we can. Congratulations, Richard. So that's the giveaway, and I think that brings us to the end of the show for this week. So thanks for watching, everyone, and please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. It only takes a moment. It does mean a lot to me. I noticed somebody subscribed during the run of the show, so thank you very much for doing that, whoever you are. And do try and share this, and if we can try and get the word out about this, the more people I can prove are watching this live, the better chance I have of being able to secure other companies who will be willing to do giveaways for us. So you've got more chances of winning things if you get the word out, and we can get that viewer total up. So thank you for those who are already promoting it. And right, thank you to Richard for the image. Thanks to Rick for doing the 3-minute challenge. Let me know what you want to see in future ones. I've got a few ideas from people coming in that I'm going to build on. Try and stay safe at the moment, folks, and let me have any feedback you have, what's working, what's not. If anything you want to add in terms of any questions that you want to add in advance, feel free to video yourself. Send me the video. Use WeTransfer. It'd be great to sort of feed in other people's videos. I'm almost tempted. Does anybody fancy doing a screen capture of them doing a 3-minute Lightroom challenge, like Rick and I have been doing, only I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to send you one of my images for you to do an edit on, and you'll have 3 minutes to do it. Anybody fancy doing it? Let me know. Drop me an email, drop me a message if that's something you'd like to have a go at, and we can play those in on the show. So right, more images for my 3-minute challenges. Let me have those as well. Let me know what you want to do. Next time we're going to look at backup strategies. I had a question come in this week. In fact, it was only early today, so I didn't have time to prepare it, and as ever I've already got too much material for today anyway. So next week I'm going to look at backups, how we back up and safeguard our images. We'll continue with the beginner's course, and we'll be looking at point of view on there. There will be the final 3-minute challenge if nobody else provides me any images. I've got one more left, and so until that time, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now, and keep making great photos. Right, as ever at this point I need to record a different ending to the video. This one is for the cut down version, so in a moment I shall go live with that and just finish off as per the cut down version. Thanks for watching this cut down version of the live stream. I'm sorry we had to cut you off at this point, but if you want to see the full stream, then it's going to be available in my Academy. The Academy costs just £6 a month or £60 a year to join, and you'll have the full archive of live streams there, plus the full beginners course and other courses in the library as well. So please consider joining that and support what I'm doing here on YouTube. But until next time though, thanks for watching and keep making great photos. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down here so you'll get notified of future videos. Up here is a playlist of videos similar to this one, and here's one specific video that I think you will like, whereas down here is one that YouTube thinks you'll like. Until next time, keep making great photos. Bye for now.